Hello and welcome to episode 116 of the Foundry Roundtable, the podcast covering the Foundry for Star Trek Online. I'm your Tame Foundry author, Drogan1701, and with me is the incoming replacement for Admiral Quinn, Markhawkman.
Wait, who told you that?
Well, see, it's a new development, and unfortunately nobody has told Admiral Quinn, so he keeps showing up in uniform and trying to order everybody around. It's okay, ignore him. You'll be fine.
I don't think that Trill's ever going to retire.
Just remember there is a quota for the number of times ESD has to be attacked every year. So you have to meet that. And we also have with us Greendragoon, Jedi Knight, and friend of Captain Solo.
Well, unfortunately, Captain Solo and I had a falling out. That's okay. I've got Captain Sulu now.
Ah, oh, much better. Where is he, though?
Place?
All right, so we're going to deviate just a little bit from what we usually do, which is only things that are Foundry related or things that we can possibly somehow tie back into the Foundry, because there's a new feature out, which is on Tribble at the moment. So Dragoon, if you want to load that up, we're going to talk a little bit about the Admiralty System. We'll get back to some Foundry topics later, because I've been thinking about it, and really there's just about no time. There's just about no way that I can actually tie this into the Foundry. It's a completely independent system. There's no interact here. So, but it is interesting, and we're players of the whole game, so we're interested.
But I will point out that the DOF system, which this is loosely connected to, has provided some inspiration for Foundry missions.
It has. And it is one of those things where you do get a small amount of story if you want to read the descriptions of the assignments. It's like the DOF system in that way. And we like story on this program, so there could be some fun stuff. You know, someday I'd like to have, and one thing we can do while you're loading this up is talk about Foundry challenges. You know, we'd love to see them come back. We're working on some way to do something with that. You know, even if it's just us do one, probably after season 11 starts, because as we were talking about just amongst ourselves before the program started, we will have some downtime with season 11. It's just inevitable. There's nothing big coming for the Foundry itself, so I don't imagine there'd be anything too huge as far as downtime goes. Just your normal amount for a season launch. But yeah, we'd love to see Foundry challenges come back. So one thing that we want to ask the community is, what do you think is a good time frame for a Foundry challenge? You know, how many weeks to build? How many weeks to vote? So we're gonna put that out to the community. I'm sure the folks in our chat room will chime in, and I'll read that as they do, but we'll also put it out, comments in our threads in the forums and emailed to us. We are curious, what do you think is a good time frame for authors to do one? And what brought it to my mind just now was talking about DOF system and story, and how funny would it be to have, you know, make a mission based on a DOF mission. You know, make a mission based on search for signs of Klingon intelligence.
I want to say that there are at least one or two Foundry missions out there already that have been based on a Foundry mission. Or not a Foundry, but it's based on a DOF mission.
I think it'd also be kind of funny to, you know, make a mission based on a DOF. You know, some of us apparently, according to our DOF rosters, have Tholians running around our ship. What's that guy's story? You know.
Oh, hold on. Let me look up a list quick. Roster.
So I have the Admiralty System loaded up
species.
here.
Okay, this character has Acamarians, Anar, Andorians, Bajorans, Benthans, Benzites, Betazoids, Bolians, Breen, Caitians, Cardassians, Deferi, Deltans, Elarians, Exocomps, Ferengi, Gorn, Horta, Humans, Jem'Hadar, Karema, Klingons, Lethians, Nausicaans, Ocampans, Orions, Paradans, Photonics, Remans, Rigelians, Ryzians, Romulans, Saurians, Suliban, Talaxians, Tellarites, Tholian, Trill, Vorta, Vulcans, and Iridians as crew on his ship.
Wow, you are living the Federation dream.
Call it the USS Melting Pot. Seriously.
Actually, I just like to collect DOF species, so I have all sorts of them.
All sorts of them. Well, I can imagine that you might be quite interested to delve into the Admiralty System as a collector, because then you can be a ship card collector now, as well as DOFs. So Dragoon, you have it pulled up here, so take us through.
All right, so starting on the overview, you've got your typical overview for everything, so DOFs, Admiralty, and R&D. Over here, we've got the campaign tab, which kind of shows your progress through the 2 campaigns that are launching, United Federation of Planets and Klingon Empire. I wouldn't be too surprised if...
worth mentioning that these aren't locked to specific factions. They just sort of, the storyline of these campaigns has to do with one faction or the other. So if you're a Federation player, as the player that you're on now, you get to do both campaigns, United Federation Planets campaign and Klingon Empire campaign.
I imagine it's a bit like a Reputation in that you're working to build your affiliation with that particular faction. I wouldn't be surprised if additional factions show up, like Romulans and Cardassians and those else.
You see, so it's a tour of duty. It's not that's what they call it. So it looks like you have 0 out of 10 for each of those. So are there 10 assignments in that, or I'm just seeing this for the first time.
10 tiers.
By the way. By
you work
triple
your way up.
patching.
You gain experience in each campaign, and it lists right out here how much experience gets you at each tier. So 200,000 experience is the tier 10 amount. As per the usual cryptic style, the early tiers require very little experience, and the later tiers require a lot. But I mean, I want to say that there are some places in the tiers where, for instance, here at tier 3, we've got the daily campaign XP bonus increase. So there are rewards that increase the amount of XP you get off of these assignments. Looking at Klingon ones, I know. I mean, it's kind of weird, interesting to see, because I got this little icon off to the side, and it says the one that says 0 of 10, but the Federation one has a skill point symbol next to it, and yeah, Klingon one has a dilithium symbol next to it. So I'm wondering if it isn't a tour of duties like different rewards based on campaign it is.
Well, it lists some of the rewards there. I mean, because it says tier 1, 1,000 dilithium ore, and some sort of tokens.
Yeah, these are 5 pass tokens, which
not that I know what those are.
Those have to do with something a little bit. We'll get into a little bit later. They feed back into it. In fact, most of these rewards, minus the things like dilithium ore, mostly feed back into the system itself, like give you a boost to the system itself. I will say I know that the dev blog talked about getting a special unique Admiralty ship once you completed it all the way.
I think that's the what you get for tier 10 or something.
Yeah, which isn't listed.
And
here,
should be mentioned that that's a ship card. It's not a ship you can fly, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my guess anyway.
I'm kind of curious what the ship card might be that isn't a ship that you can unlock otherwise. I don't know, maybe it's something like the USS
Jupiter
Enterprise or Fortescue.
could be a flagship. One thing we do know about this is that currently they don't allow you to like name the ships, right?
No, in fact, let me go ahead and show. Um, so when you go to pick up a mission here, the mission, you get a choice of 3 missions here, plus 2 that are on deck assignments, and these are basically the in reserve. So as you clear out missions here, the missions on deck feed in back into this list of 3. And this is where the pass token comes in. There's a grayed out button here that says pass, and this basically allows you to dismiss a mission so that you can get to one that's in the deck faster. So maybe there's like some mission in the deck that gives really good rewards and really want that one, but you don't want to have to lock up all of your ships doing supply run here. If you have a pass token, you can choose to pass it or just pass on the mission and get another one.
And it's interesting. You have quite a variety of different rarities of missions here. You've got one that's gold, and you got a purple and a green. So you've got all different rarities of missions.
Well, my guess is that the rarer the mission,
The better the rewards.
the better the rewards. So if you, so we got 2 missions here. We got a supply run that's only green, and it rewards 7,500 energy credits. But then you've got dismantle illegal minefield, which is very rare, and that one gives 50,000 energy credits.
Now, it's interesting to see here is that, and this is something that I didn't know, is that not all of the missions are part of the tours of duty, the campaigns.
No, and in fact, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think the tours of duty and the tiers are exactly the same thing. I think
because you've got one that says tour of duty 1 of 10 there.
Yeah. So this is a sequence of missions that you do to complete, and that basically the idea is that at the end of the 10, I believe that it has a really high payout. So like a super big. But I mean, considering this just the first one is a 20-hour mission, I would assume you're looking at like 10 days or more of doing these missions before you get the big payout
so
at the end.
Sir Boulevard in the chat room is saying that the general missions are they build XP for your campaign, and then at some point you get one that will essentially level you up to the next tier.
Okay, so this is basically
which is what that is.
Okay,
the tour
so
of duty 1 of 10.
Tour duties are your leveling.
Yeah.
And then the other ones are your basic rewards. Or okay, in many ways this is kind of its own little unique beast. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and fire up the tour of duty mission. And here you basically have 3 slots for ships. I tried to unlock as many ships as I could before starting this up. And the ships are classified into engineering, tactical, and science. And a lot of them, but I want to say, well, maybe all of them, have like some special like ability. So, for instance, my Chimera Heavy Destroyer here has +3 science per science ship or engineering ship. And the Heavy Escort Carrier has +15 engineering and science when alone. So you don't have to send 3 ships out. You can send 1, 2, 3. I also thought kind of interesting is that the ships have rarities. So, for instance, my Obelisk Carrier, which I got way back when for the mission reward, is a common carrier. It's nothing special. Neither is my basic Odyssey Star Destroyer. I got a Mirror Assault Cruiser here, which is uncommon. Getting into sea store ships, my assault cruiser refit, my Chimera heavy destroyers, my tier 5 ships, then some of my T6 ships, and then you get into um, very rares, which apparently include like um, the Studio Command battlecruiser, or the two event ships that I got, the Kabale Samsar cruiser and the Nandi warship. And obviously, the rarer the ships, the better their stats seem to be. All right, so over here, I was going to say something, Jurgen?
No, well, I think they said something about like lower tier ships won't be useless.
No. And I mean,
Well, Borticus said that is related to the amount of time it takes for it to get to the maintenance cycle after
yes.
your ships are always going to go into
timer.
maintenance after you use them, and lower the tier, the shorter the maintenance.
So yes.
And now I'm remembering the starter ships. If you still have those, they will give you a bonus reward.
Also, if I remember right, the starter ship, you can rebuy that, can't you?
Yeah.
Like,
you can, but it costs dilithium.
Yeah, I think it's a really cheap and like 5,000 or something.
8.
Okay. I was gonna say the T5s are.
But
like
a lot of people don't keep those around. I was actually, I was over on my super secret second account, which is a free to play account that I have never bought anything for. So it has virtually nothing but standard stuff on it. And on one character, I have all the ships I've used to level up. On another character, I don't. I deleted them because I didn't know this was coming.
Yeah.
So, that character would not have access to the starter ship unless I rebought it. I actually suggested today on Twitter that they maybe do like a free claim weekend where all of those standard ships, the non-C-store, non-low-buy, non-lockbox ships, just the ones that you can buy at the requisition right now for dilithium, set that to 0 for a weekend after this goes live. So all of us folks who have high levels who have deleted our starter ships can get it back real quick.
Yeah,
and get that card.
Yeah, that's the cool thing is that like the obelisk carrier was common, so that'll like not as good as stats, but it comes back up again as available sooner. Because no matter what the outcome, every ship has to go through maintenance once it completes an assignment. So unfortunately, my Ferengi Nandi warship here will be take much longer to get through maintenance. So it's kind of a cool balancing. So yeah, you may have like 3 lockbox super rare ships, but those will also be balanced again.
They'll take a while to recharge.
Exactly. All right, so
worth mentioning that mirror ships will be actually a higher rarity. I think they're green, so they're higher rarity than standard ships. Yeah, standard ships are the same type. And as mentioned in our chat room here, the price of those has been going up dramatically since the blog dropped. They used to be dirt cheap because they were pretty much not worth anything because you couldn't upgrade them to T5U. Which that's one thing. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
The funny part is that they're really not that good. Because you look at your mirror to the assault, it's kind of. However, suspending a million or so EC rather than say like however many thousand.
one thing. And I lost my train of thought. Mark, you're cutting in and out there. We're having a tough time hearing you.
Oh, okay. So there's the actual number for maintenance times.
Yeah, so it actually lists it on the card. There's a little info icon next to each ship, and it'll list its status, its special ability, but it also lists its maintenance. So, for instance, the heavy escort carrier requires 20 hours, 50 minutes of maintenance after a mission. But just for comparison, let's go ahead and pull up the Obelisk carrier. It actually has the same.
Now, which Obelisk carrier is that? I'm just curious. Is it the one that
the event one from back when they launched Sphere of Influence?
That's the freebie one.
The freebie one, yeah, the one you earned by playing.
Okay, so
it actually does have a cool power.
Yeah, my Presidio commander has 1 day, 12 hours. Not seeing a difference between the rares. Okay, so T6 experimental science vessel is okay. I see. So it's not the rarity that affects the maintenance. It's the tier. So the tier 6 ones are requiring 1 day, 12 hours. Let me.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier.
Then the tier 5 seems to be 20 hours.
It has a big effect on the stat, though.
Fortunately, I don't have anything lower than tier 5 on this character right now, but suddenly all those freebie lower tier ships that they kept giving away, the C-Store ships.
Oh yeah.
Suddenly those are all really useful.
Well, on my main account, which has 5 years of accumulated stuff, I'm just imagining myself after season 11 drops, just going through and on every character, just claim, dismiss, claim, dismiss, claim, dismiss.
Yeah, I was doing that a bit.
That's the freebie Odyssey. Didn't its ability say minus 5% maintenance time? Or something like that?
For instance, the Kobali Samsar Cruiser is negative 10 maintenance per tack ship or science ship.
And the Nandi does the same sort of thing.
Worth noting that the Foundry is turned off on Triple at the moment, so there isn't anything currently going on there that we can test.
So I do notice
even if there was anything.
I do notice that there's a success rate and a critical chance rate, which it seems to be tied to rarity, like it is with DOFs.
I would guess that it's actually based on the amount you exceed the requirements. Because it requires 10 engineer, 10 science. You slotted like 100 of each.
Yeah, and it's got a total, for instance, of 20 on this one, and
it says bonus 355. I would guess that goes into critical chance.
That could be. I've got any ships that are all right, so one other thing that is this event, and for this particular one, it's got safe trade route, which reduces the tack requirement by 10.
So that probably changes.
Yeah.
In fact, it does, because I've got a different one up here. It says event. It says rogue dilithium asteroid plus 10 tack required, but you get plus 5 bonus and a small dilithium ore package.
Yeah, this is kind of a modifier on the mission.
Mm-hmm.
That can increase or decrease the requirements, but also include an extra reward.
Primar is saying he's kind of surprised there isn't a fail chance.
Well, I mean, if I was to put really crummy, apparently this is the
Now, I think there
2 or 80,
actually
which is
is a fail chance here because I'm looking at, I'm actually fully patched up now, so I'm looking at my own, and I've got a mission open here, and if I just put one ship in it, I'm below all the requirements. So the success chance is only 40%, and the critical chance is 1%. But I can still begin this assignment, so it conceivably could fail. So I think there is a fail chance. It's just it's not listed as a fail chance. It's more a lack of success chance.
Yeah, because you have a success chance of I think 22% on that one, so that's 22% chance of success, and the rest of the other 78 would be, I guess, the chance of failure.
Yeah, because I mean here I picked a failure mission and even slotting 3 ships, which admittedly are not right ones. Only brings us a success chance.
Yeah, because there's not high requirements there.
Well, 220 is a pretty high requirement. I mean,
well, like I said, it's
going
to be.
I don't think it's possible to put in 3 ships that actually meet the full requirement, because your Samsar has 74 engineer, and I haven't seen anything else that had that.
Well, there's some bonuses and things like that. See, I've got one here that's slotted. I've got an Anarax, a T6 battle cruiser, and a Presidio command cruiser, which altogether gives me 351, but I'm low on science. And it gets me 96% success rate. But you know, there's modifiers on things. This one here, the Presidio, if I get rid of the other two, it would give me plus 20 attack when it's by itself. It's kind of interesting. There's a lot. It's looking like there's a lot that's going to go into your choices of who you send out.
One thing I remember from the dev blog is that the upcoming T6 Dreadnought cruiser, its special ability is that it can it gets plus 10 to all of its stats whenever you use it by itself. Which
so
I'm not. It actually has a very high engineer score, but tactical and science are not good on that one.
There's going to be some times when it's going to be advantageous to send just one ship, even if it doesn't necessarily get you 100% success, because then you only have one ship that's out on its maintenance timer, and you might have one that has a bonus to maintenance timers if it's by itself. In fact, I've got one of those. Let's see, which one was it? Let's see here. Oh no, I've got one. The battle cruiser says it's minus 25 maintenance per tack ship. So which ones are tack ships?
Matching up types and trying to take full advantage of bonuses.
So how do you see which one, whether something is a tack ship?
Oh, it's the border.
Yeah.
The border is red, yellow, or...
That's what that is. Red, yellow, or blue.
And you can actually sort by hack engineering and science.
Oh, you can. Filter by role and tier. How awesome is that? So one thing is, you know, how you get these cards is basically by having a ship be active in your roster. Once you have it, you won't lose it. So you can, you know, claim a ship off the C-store. It'll get you the card. Then you can get rid of that ship out of your roster, and you'll still have the card.
Yep. Yeah, so some people in the forum were talking about how they're planning to go through everything that they've ever purchased from the store and activate it just long enough to get the card.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't you? Gives you the gives you the maximum amount of options you can possibly do.
Also, Vorticus mentioned that there is actually some sort of an engine limitation on the number of ship cards you can have, but he believes that it's larger than the number of ships you can possibly own.
Yeah,
So,
it's like 9,999.
And because you can't actually get a duplicate ship card, so if you claim, you know, I have the Andorian ships, and if I claim the Kumari one time, I'm just going to get it one time on that character. I can't claim it again and get another duplicate card. However, there are multiple versions
in
of the
certain
same
cases,
kind of ship.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is that
Yeah.
the 3-pack ships like Tar, you would, if you have all 3 versions of the Scimitar, you would get one.
Yeah, you get each one because they're separate ships. But if you do like the let me find an example here. Okay, say like the Galaxy class. Okay, there's the captain level version, the exploration cruiser, and get that card. There's the refit, which would be a separate one. And there's the let's see, what are the other ones for Galaxy? There's one at the retrofit would be a separate one. The Dreadnought Cruiser would be a separate one. And these are all sort of, you know, either Galaxies or sort of Galaxy classes, and then the Tier 6 would be a separate one. And then the fleet versions would be the separate one. The only time there's not a difference is between a T5 ship and its upgraded version. So if you get a T5 ship and upgrade it to T5U, you don't get another separate card.
All right, so I've got a mission here that I started just before the show, and go ahead and view the details on it. And apparently I critted, and gave me 8,000, about 8,000 skill points, about 2,000 campaign XP, and about 50,000 energy credits. This was about a 45-minute mission. I guess it's a crit, but 8,000 seems a little on the high side. Used to get excited
Don't say
about like
that.
2,000.
Don't say that, because one of the things that I'm really hoping about for this system is that it could provide me, because you know me, I'm an altaholic. I have 38 characters. A lot of them have really just struggled and languished between level 50 and 60 because of the astronomically high XP requirements, and I'm really hoping this system can help with that.
And it's good to remember that unlike doffing, your slots are far more limited, and obviously you don't have as many ships as you would doffs.
Also, from what I've heard, the list of assignments you have available to you is always the same no matter where you are.
Yeah, well,
so it's not like doffing where you have to go fly to Ong Nebula to do a do doff mission. You just, wherever you are, that's where you do the mission.
Yeah, it's not location.
I guess the 50,000 energy credits I got actually came from the event, which was a pirate raiding party.
Nice. And as Sir Boulevard says, the trade-off is that it's you know, I think you're going to be doing, it's going to go over a longer period of time, because you have those maintenance timers and that sort of thing. So it's not like you're not going to queue up as many and do as many per day, say, as you do DOF missions. So the rewards and time required for them probably balance out.
Okay. So this is interesting. I got 2,000 XP, and I only needed 1,800. And so it filled up my bar, but it has not rolled over, which I'm assuming is where the tour of duty assignment comes in. You have to get the XP to get up to the tier, and then you do the tour of duty to roll it over, like you would the claim tier on the reputation.
Makes sense. Now, it's also worth noting that at the moment the C-store seems to be disabled on Tribble. So,
actually, it's been that way for several seasons, I think.
Yeah,
however, I do have.
Tribble.
They seem to have provided me with some of the little requisition tokens you get as you level up, so I can buy a little Nova.
Nice.
Just one though, so I can't.
Actually, that's a really good.
Can't buy all the tier 2 ships. I hope. Yeah, it'd be nice if they did that on.
Yeah, I mean, just provide a requisition token for.
People of a
10 levels,
certain level or something. Yeah.
Kind of the same effect as your free weekend.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm going to get a advanced escort from that particular token, and I think that's probably all that I have available. But I also have the event store, which also seems to be disabled. Oh well, but yeah, you'll be able to, any of the event ships that you've earned, can be useful in this, even if you're not going to fly it. So you just, claim it, open the box, and there you go. Dismiss it. So anyway, I mean, that's the Admiralty system in a nutshell. I think, potentially adding things to it, like, new campaigns, there's obviously plenty of room to do that. I'm not sure what else, they might have more slots to do more missions at once. That's something you could see in a lockbox, in a fleet holding as a reward for that, all that sort of thing. There's different avenues they can go with things like that.
Definitely an interesting thing. I think it is a little more tactical than doffing. So at the same time, it's fewer moving parts than or fewer angles that you have to consider than you do with DOF assignments, which you have can have over 100 offs on your roster.
Mm-hmm.
There's my flight cruiser. Poor thing only has like 5 to each.
Okay, that is surprisingly pitiful.
Well, so is the Miranda.
Well, you didn't think they were going to be really uber awesome, did you?
No, but I was expecting better than that, like maybe 15.
The way the bonus works out, though, it seems like one of those things that you would want to take advantage of, because some events reduce the
yeah, it's definitely useful to pay attention to that, to the events thing, because it gets you extra rewards and sometimes it changes the requirements.
does 2x bonus? Does that mean that instead of getting 1,000 bonus to lithium, you would get 2,000?
I don't think so. I think because
It says bonus to events. So I think what you would get is for that particular
Wait,
event that he's looking
well,
at now, he'd get better R&D materials, maybe more of them.
click the yellow eye icon to see if it has a larger. Nope, doesn't have a larger tooltip.
well,
But
this
10
particular
minute
mission.
maintenance. Wow.
Yeah, I mean this thing is really literally ready to go. In a minuscule fraction of the time that a large ship is. And there are some like the tour of duty was only requiring like 10 um, requiring like 10 per category. So it's not like all missions are super high. I noticed this one has a +5 bonus, and with the Miranda slotted, it went up to +10.
Yeah, I'd say the Miranda is pretty useful. Could be, as much as you're, if you've got something where you've got 3 ships, or, 2 ships that, or even 1 that make up the requirement, slot the Miranda in there, and you get a nice bonus. It's like a little ship that makes everything better.
That sounds pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about is, what are some ways now that people can pad out their ship roster? And one of them is the little free Tier 3 Ambassador and Kamarog versions that you get from running Temporal Ambassador. So if you haven't run Temporal Ambassador and you have a ship slot available, or actually even don't because it comes in a box, now's the time.
Well,
might as well run it.
You still have to unpack it in order to get it into your roster.
Yeah, you'll have to unpack it eventually, but it's not like you can earn it and leave it there for a moment. Because and one of the things that people are worried about is ship slots, because I know I've spoken to people who have loaded up on ships that can't be reclaimed without paying for them again. Low buy ships, lockbox ships, fleet ships. I mean, if you have all of those, a ton of those on one character, it is possible to max out ship slots and not have any room to maneuver as far as adding new ones goes. You'll have to get rid of something that you'd have to buy again, and some people don't want to do that. So I don't know. Cryptic might look at what is the maximum amount of non-reclaimable ships you could get on one character, and add one more to the maximum amount of slots you can purchase.
They might add some sort of tech to make it so that you will gain the ability to reclaim the otherwise one-off ships, because, well, this gives people an incentive to collect as many of everything as they can.
It does.
I mean, heck, Kazon ships have gone up in price to 5 million.
Now, don't let that fool you. I like my Kazon ship. It's a fantastic little ship.
So I'm just reading through the dev blog here, and it looks like this system unlocks at level 52.
It does.
So little after you reach Vice Admiral, and probably right around that point where you're starting to hit the leveling walls. So I kind of wonder if some of the design in this isn't to try and alleviate some of that leveling pain.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping you're right about that. Because, boy, it would help people like me.
But I mean, looking through, I mean, you start out with 3 slots to begin with, and like the R&D system, you unlock more slots as you progress. So 1 or 2 of the campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
up to the final one being getting one of your campaigns up to tier 10.
Now we were talking a little bit about story earlier. Can you look at the missions and see, you know, what sort of flavor text do they have? What does it tell you about the mission that you're sending your ships out on?
Okay, so I have one here called Analyze New Discovered Phenomenon. Long-range sensors are detecting a massive astronomical phenomenon of undetermined nature and origin forming in an uninhabited region of the Federation space. We pull up the assignment log for that mission I just completed. And it doesn't give any flavor text as to the outcome, like the DOFs sometimes do. I don't know if they just didn't write it for this particular one, or none of them really have any flavor text. I mean, for me personally, I almost kind of wish the events were not revealed until the end, so that they were kind of the wild factor in the mission. So you kind of wanted to pad over because you don't know what kind of what's going to happen on the mission, and then afterwards you find out, oh, they got raided by a pirate raiding party, but they managed to take 50,000 energy credits for me. Anyway, that's just kind of my thought. Obviously, we're still a couple of weeks away from.
Yeah, you know, you could see you're going to see a few iterations of things changing, but I don't know. It looks in pretty good shape so far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it says in the that the details are all subject to change, as are
Obviously.
a result of testing and iteration. And honestly, I mean, if you guys want to get your voices in on the system, head on over to Tribble.
Well, what I was trying to say was that one thing I thought of about the events is that one way to look at it is that it's like randomly changing battlefield circumstances, and this is something that Federation intelligence has noted about the situation, is that this particular location has a pirate raiding group in it that you might have to deal with. I mean, it's not like something that's like a surprise after you start the mission. It's something you know about going into the mission.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you had to, because you know feedback is useful. So if you had to give one piece of feedback for this system, you know, maybe a suggestion, what might it be? And while you're thinking, I can tell you the suggestion that I would make, which would be to allow us to name our ships, our ship cards, USS something or other.
I've seen this
because that makes it feel like it's my fleet.
Yeah. One downside to this is it's an extra UI that they need to implement, and it's more space in the database.
Sure, it is.
Well, that would be cool. I mean, it doesn't have to follow the names of whatever your ships are in your active roster. But yeah, so I got my fleet heavy destroyer. Maybe I can change name icon. I can change the name to the such and such, USS such and such.
I'm definitely hoping that they give us an info dump of all the various ship stats, because I'm tempted to go around and collect stats but I don't own every ship in the game. I can't make a full list by myself.
Well,
and
I'm
very curious what the I'm very curious what the temporal weapon ship will have for its stats.
Well, if I hadn't closed down Tribble just a moment ago, I could tell you. because I have one. Not to brag, but yeah, I would hope that enterprising individuals might go through and add the Admiralty stats to the pages on StowWiki. That would be nice.
I'm sure it's only a matter of time.
Well, it's also a matter of finding an editor who has time to do that.
This is true.
I might end up doing something along those lines. I'm not sure.
All right, well, let's shift gears back to the Foundry itself. Go back to our usual segments. So why don't we talk about what we've been working on? So have either of you guys gotten in the Foundry much since we last talked?
Not a whole lot. And by not a whole lot, not at all. Sorry, work has been continuing to eat a great deal of my time and willpower.
Well, that's important to support our gaming habits somehow, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the few times that I'm on, I often just kind of want to veg and just play stuff.
Oh yeah, I completely understand. It's you always have to manage that. It's possible to overdo it with your hobbies. So, yeah. You can play too much golf. You can play too much Foundry. Play too much Stow. These are things that are possible. And sometimes it's a good thing to take a little break for a while. But just know that eventually people will start threatening you if you don't get part 3 out.
Oh, I'm well aware.
I think even someone necroed a thread from like 2 years ago, just last week on the Foundry part of the forums.
That thing you said about eventually, I'm not entirely convinced that eventually is correct.
Was this about my mission?
Yeah. So it was somebody asking about part 3.
I missed that. I've been checking the forums enough.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Mark, have you been doing much Foundry lately?
No. However, I did make an observation this week that was pointed out by some people on the forum, is that the surprise preview costume items that were accidentally added to the Foundry editor were unadded. I'm expecting them to come back for Season 11, but I guess not until then.
This is something like the mirror ship skins, right?
No, actually the Terran Empire variant of the Odyssey uniform.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, I actually checked that this morning, and it's nowhere to be seen now.
Well, it's worth noting that I believe people who have played the missions on Tribble say that Mirror Lita, actually is not wearing that particular variant anymore. So, I don't know, maybe they decided not to use it and just got rid of it. But I guess we'll find out when Season 11 hits. So I can tell everybody what I've been doing. Obviously, aside from working on the Starbase UGC project, which is going to be released in October, I can tell you that much. I took a little break over the weekend to work on my 200,000 Years Ago project. Specifically, I was doing some costumes, creating costumes for the races that we saw in Midnight. And I'm going to show them to you today and see what you think, if I did them at all well. Because this is not something that I have done a lot of, try to recreate an in-game one. There are some options that we don't have, unfortunately, so it's like a get as close as you can. So I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, if I remember right, one of those mixed Riemann and Kazon costume parts.
Okay, so Dragoon, if this is working,
Yeah, that guy.
I took screenshots in the midnight, my last playthrough. Well, the one thing that we don't have from this skin specifically is the little face mask thing.
Mm-hmm. So some of the Riemann NPCs have that as a part of their outfit, but we've never had that as a customizable option.
All right, so here's my version. Obviously, pretty heavy on the Riemann parts, but with the kind of Jem'Hadarish spikes and the hair, of course.
Yeah, that's a pretty close likeness.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this is the ambassadorial one because this is, based on the guy who was on the ground talking to the Riemanns asking for stuff before, or not the Riemanns, the Iconians before the attack. So if I were to, I'd duplicate some more of these and give them lots of different outfits. All right, next is the Denassians. And here's those guys. Pretty different looking.
Well, they look like they use a bunch of the coral headpieces.
Exactly. So, if we go back to the Foundry.
Yeah, honestly, the first
mine.
time I ran the mission, I stared at those guys for a few minutes trying to figure out how to recreate the looks.
Dragoon, I'm not sure if this is going out over the... Oh, wait, there it is.
Yeah.
Lag.
Got a bit of a lag on my stream that I'm looking at here. But anyway, yeah, here's the Denassian. Now he had some, and you couldn't see this on my other screenshot, but he had some interesting shoulder pads that I don't think we have access to. Or maybe they looked Orion, and I couldn't get the Orion ones on the even on the KDF Alien.
I'm going to have to ponder that one, but there are actually several of the KDF costume options, like the Nausicaa and Quirask, and there is a specific Orion shoulder pad option, which doesn't seem to have anything to do with anything the Orions actually wear, but it's just like this curved, rounded metal piece.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the one I'm talking about. It was curved and his metal is, it's pretty much like a flat gray. But in any case, this is all about getting close. Doesn't have to be exact because people won't be looking that close. And they won't have the thing right next to them to compare. So there were some facial patterns and things on the Denassian guy that I couldn't quite replicate. But I may keep trying. Now, there were 3 other races that we saw in Midnight that were not named. They showed up in the attack, and then there was a traitor that you saw out in the square talking to one of the Iconians.
Yeah, that was interesting because the one guy, he's actually a named NPC. Unlike the Denassian and the Icobar guys, who are simply mentioned as being a member of that race.
Mm-hmm. So I went through and took screenshots and tried to get them as close as I could. So there's one of them, and then here's the other. This particular guy had quite a lot of interesting armor options that we don't have. The base armor looked like the Hirogen stuff, and then there was a bunch of stuff over it that I didn't recognize from anywhere.
It looks like you got the face down really well, though. I didn't actually take a close enough look at their armor to figure out how to replicate it.
And then here's the little traitor guy.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's using the breather thing on Iconia.
And they have a slightly different breather thing on the one in game. This is the one that we have access to in the Foundry, though.
I think one of the NPCs that was using one of the breather things is actually using the Hirogen face mask.
I think you might be right about that. But
separately from the helmet.
For this particular one, I did not have access to that. So, but you know, that's so for this 200,000 years ago setting. That's 5 different races that I have, and I think I said last time I was going to include Horda and Voth. So that's 7. It's too late for math. And, you know, I figured I'd probably create a few of my own. And you know, the question then becomes, you know, what about a plot? And I think my first step would be to, you know, figure out different traits for each of these races. You know, different things about their society, you know, what's their political structure, all of that kind of stuff. And then, you know, talk about, you know, who's at the fringes of society. Is there... We're losing you again,
we did get several interesting hints and tidbits about it. From when you read the Iconian computer console, where it has a bar in the Denacians, that actually talks about those 2 races a lot. And then there's that short trader guy who he says several things about his culture that are interesting.
Yeah, and I made screenshots of all those things, so I can kind of keep it consistent.
Oh, same here.
Because the idea is, you know, I want to take the things that Cryptic has written for these races and expand on them, and help create that sort of living, breathing world. And one of the things I want to do with it is, you know, create political structures that are, you know, having rivalries with each other. I want some organized crime. That's always fun. I want like a Horda mob boss. That'd be pretty hilarious.
Well, one thing that I thought was kind of pondering is that maybe the races that you see here have only one thing in common, and that's that they're unhappy with their the way the Iconians have been treating them. Because, you know, the one race is talking about how his planet has been ravaged by plagues, and Iconian data file on one of the other races where it suggests that this other race has been producing bioweapons already.
Yeah, and basically my impression is it's one of those things where the only thing that's holding these guys together, this alliance that came together, is their hatred of the Iconians. And whenever I make this mission, however I make the plot, it's going to take place after the Iconians are gone. So they're not going to have that thing that binds them together anymore. So they're going to be vying with each other for resources, for power. And what I figure is that there's going to be these, you know, the big 4 races that we saw, the Ikabar, the Denacian, and then the other 2 that you see in the during the attack are going to be like the big major powers. You know, they're going to be the, you know, Britain and the U.S. and Russia after World War II. You know, you're going to have maybe a couple of them are allied with each other against one of the others, but not maybe like an open war.
I believe the phrase is co-belligerence.
There you go, co-belligerence.
As in, they're willing to work towards a common goal as long as that goal involves making someone else suffer. Actually cooperating with each other is out of the question.
Mm-hmm. Duncan Idaho in the chat room brings up a good reference, which is God Emperor of Dune, which I'm a big fan of the Dune series. And in that book, the God Emperor specifically creates a like one hegemonic, overbearing government, and then when that falls, everything fractures, everybody scatters. You have a couple of factions back in the old empire, and then you have all of these things on the fringes that people have very little information on. And new powers arise and things like that. It's, what happens after the fall of a mighty empire? And that's exactly what I want to explore in this. And it gives me an opportunity to do so and to have a lot of creative freedom with it because, it's 200,000 years ago and we don't have much information in canon.
Well, the main thing we know is that none of these races are still around. So something bad happened to all of them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, 200,000 years. I mean, that's a long time.
Mm-hmm. Which is
I
why
think it's
only a couple of races are still going to be even around at all. From from people that we know in the Stowe timeline, which is the Horda and the Voth.
And even then, I mean, yeah, it's.
Yeah, and even then, those two races don't have to be anything like what they are 200,000 years later. I think the Voth probably wouldn't have that all-powerful doctrine yet. They wouldn't have developed that. Because I don't think
it was based on them being in the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah,
actually,
so I don't think they developed that till later.
In the case of the Voth, we don't actually know how old doctrine is, but we do know how old the race is. The race has been around for several million years. It is conceivable that maybe their doctrine has been around that long.
Well, this could be when they developed it. I mean, maybe they're a really oppressed species at this point in their history. They're an undesirable underclass or something like that, and that a reaction to that is them banding together, leaving, and setting up this doctrine that says all of that time when we were oppressed didn't exist.
Well, you could do it as the Voth that you see here are ones that didn't go to the Delta Quadrant, but decided to stick around. But there's only there are not very many left, and they're mostly refugees. So maybe they're kind of like the space hobos of 200,000 years ago.
Space hobos. There we go. I like that.
Actually, that's an interesting notion, though, is that maybe the doctrine got started by a specific group of Voth who were migrating. And maybe at one point in time it was just them, and the rest of the Voth didn't seem to. Actually, that's one thing that just occurred to me is that maybe possibly it's the case that there has never been any point in Voth history where all Voth accepted doctrine. Because that was an interesting subtext of the Voyager episode, is that even at that point, however many thousands or maybe millions of years after doctrine was created, not all of the Voth accepted it.
Well, I mean,
yeah, they're always heretics, essentially. There are always people who didn't buy it.
It's funny. I was thinking about your idea for the Horda mob boss. Should totally have a scene in it where the Horda does the writing on the floor, and it says "You pay I."
I figured that you'd have to do something with because it's not like the Horda, or they don't seem to have a spoken language or anything like that. So what I would do is have them have a servitor race that they speak through telepathically.
A great and powerful Horda the Hutt.
Exactly. I need droids. That's what I need. Maybe I'll use the APUs.
There you
You
go.
ever figure out how old those things are?
I would guess
Was that the episode?
I
somewhere
don't think
in
they
the
were that old.
neighborhood of centuries,
Of
like
course, we're not
maybe
in the Delta Quadrant,
two
so
centuries.
the other challenge for this is going to be ships. You know, how do I create ships for all these races that don't look like the only ships we have available? You know,
Well, I
they
mean, we
don't
got
look
a
like
usual
ships.
selection
They don't.
of
We
generic
got our
ships.
usual selection of generic ships, yes, but I don't know. I would probably mess with. Oh, let's see here. Let's
Some
create
of
a
the
ship.
not, I'd say some of the non-Klingon
Test.
KDF ships are pretty generic.
Yeah.
I did some tinkering with the KDF Intel ships, and if you use certain options, they don't really look Klingon anymore. Then again, my goal was making it look Gorn, so you know.
Well, let's see who we
APUs
got
were
here.
made in the early 23rd century, so
So
no
they're
dice on that far
not that
back.
old.
Yeah, I didn't think they were that old.
Well, at Credum Science Dreadnought, it's not that old. Let's see.
Are we able to make
Corsair Flight
androids
Deck?
the Foundry?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so the upgrade skin is kind of
androids are a BOF-only race, and I don't believe we have any BOF-only races available.
Maybe mention to Zero, see if she'd let us. They may
Ooh,
not. I mean,
that is cool.
CBS
looking.
seemed to put a lot of restrictions on.
This with the red and the yellow lights is actually pretty cool. And actually, we have some more colors, access to some more colors than we used to, or stronger colors, because of that particular change. So there's a possibility, or let's see, how about a Rising Cruise Liner?
Yeah,
that could look interesting if you spray paint it right.
And Star Trek does have a long history of redressing ships and reusing them.
Absolutely.
For aliens. A few of which show up in the Foundry as generic ships.
Yes, they do. See, here's a Voth ship, and there are several hull types that are interesting. If I do that and then change it to, change the Voth ships around enough so that they look different than your modern Voth ships.
Those are actually pretty cool looking.
Kind of interesting with the green. So what I'm going to have to do is play with it and, find ways to... The Nihydran Destroyer can look kind of generic, can it?
Yeah. And
wait, what do you mean look like?
And the Nihydran Destroyer was only ever shown in one episode of
two.
Star Trek, so...
Okay, yeah, it was two, actually. It was reused as something else, wasn't it?
It was only mentioned as a Nihydran ship in one episode. The other race that used it was not mentioned by name, so it may or may not have been Nihydran in both uses. Yeah, see, because the other race that was seen using it was referred to only by a Borg species number.
Yeah. I've used that as Eidolon ships.
What Duncan says, USS production budget.
It was funny, I was watching a video today on YouTube talking about what the inspiration for basically Super Mario was, why all the weird imagery with mushrooms and flying turtles and all this stuff, and they broke it down. And,
I always assumed drugs.
Well, you would be wrong because they actually broke it down and pointed out how every single element was actually tracked back to technical limitations at the time.
Really?
Like reusing turtles as flying turtles because they could reuse the sprite. stuff like that. The way Mario was dressed, so that you could differentiate his body types with only like 3 colors. On all these
Hmm.
technical restrictions, and I always thought it was kind of a really good reminder of how um, the restrictions can often be the driving force for creativity.
Sure.
Well,
But
actually, if you look at the Mortal Kombat game series, that's actually the reason why they have that elite clan of ninjas is because in the first few games they had several characters that wore the same costume and actually used the same sprites. It's just that the game had this little feature where it would recolor the sprites to make them look different for each of the characters that used that particular sprite.
yeah, so I mean,
Now, what I
no, I
was
mean,
looking through before there was the costume creator, and of course we have more things that are not in the costume creator than that we can actually put down on maps, because of course we have some things that are just in the NPC list, like the APU ships of various types.
in the attack class ships.
Mm-hmm. That's what I use it for anyway. In game.
One of these days, we are totally going to need to do our um, SG1 parody
Yes.
Foundry mission.
Now, one thing very useful is the generic freighters. The Delta Quadrant.
Nice.
The Delta Quadrant freighters.
Oh, we don't have the ability to fly those as players, do we?
Nope. But they are available as NPCs, so you can put them down on a map as NPC contacts. You can reskin combat mobs as these guys.
We can't edit the costumes, though.
No, you can't change the costumes any.
Still nice to have them.
Don't forget the Doomsday Machine. That's pretty old. I could use one of those.
Oh yes, very much.
Have a plot.
So.
Have a plot with that.
Like maybe it was created by one of these races as a weapon against the Iconians, and it escaped.
Ooh,
And
there's an
they
idea.
accidentally blew up their own homeworld with it.
Because we know that the Doomsday device came from outside the galaxy, and we know that the Iconians spent a ton of time over in Andromeda.
Actually, it was speculated to have come from outside the galaxy, but maybe in reality it was created in this galaxy, left the galaxy, and then came back.
There's definitely a lot of ways you could kind of go with there. Now, one thing I've decided not to use is the Fakiri.
Yeah, they're pretty distinct.
Yeah.
Also, they're probably an Iconian servitor race.
Yeah. And I don't think they're this old.
No, I mean, I think we were discussing this at one point on Twitter, and
Yeah.
Klingon history does not go that far back. In fact, human history is older than Klingon history.
Only like few thousand years. Then apparently the Herc invasion actually happened like 4,000 years ago, wasn't it?
I think it was like
1500, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't very much. But yeah, as of course we always say, we do have quite a number of interesting looking generic ships, or I've always found them interesting looking anyway. Quite a selection of that. The Gorn battleship, which is not in the costume creator.
I so wish we could play those.
And the Gorn cruiser, I think, is also not in there. And of course, the Gorn dreadnought.
But did I mention I want those too? I think the only one we actually have is the Gorn battleship that's playable. Even though we have more than one Gorn ship playable, one of the playable Gorn ships doesn't actually use the same skin as the non-playable ones.
You got to remember that NPC ships are lower detail and less sophisticated than player ships.
Mm-hmm.
So Basically, if they want to convert a NPC ship into a player ship, they have to remodel it.
Here's an interesting idea. Hirogen. How old is Hirogen civilization?
I don't even think they know.
No.
This is a good
They're
point.
not-
I don't think it's ever
They're
said.
not big on written history.
There is one tantalizing tidbit, though, is that they have a computer, have their station or network of relay station satellites that they use for long-range communications. That Voyager concluded was somewhere around 200,000 years old.
I think they also concluded it wasn't set up by the Hirogen themselves. It was somebody else's.
Yeah.
They
Voyager thought that they had just kind of claimed it.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to say
that.
One of you go.
What I was just going to ask is whether the dating or whether Voyager's claim that the Hirogen didn't make it was based on actually examining it and comparing it to Hirogen technology, or if it was just guesswork.
Hard to say. Because and the funny thing is this is something that I argued with somebody on Reddit about not too long ago, is that things that are said by characters on the show in canon, those statements can be wrong.
Oh yeah,
they can say an incorrect thing. Recently we talked about Captain Picard's assertion that the ancient Iconians were peaceful. He might have been wrong about that. Obviously, we found out that he wasn't, but he could have been wrong about that.
He was making a guess.
Yes. Duncan Idaho makes a suggestion in the chat room, which is something I was just thinking about, actually, is that Hirogen could be good for like a primitive species early in their development.
Well, apparently the Hirogen were actually way more advanced and homeworld-centric sometime in the past, and only later developed into the Hun-obsessed species that they are.
We know they were nomadic, or had become nomadic, so who knows where their homeworld was.
Yeah.
Could have been in the Alpha Quadrant, for all we know.
Another interesting thing is that they're a very late introduction to the Borg. The Borg encounter with the Hirogen is very recent. So perhaps they originally started out somewhere else, another part of the galaxy.
In Stowe canon, the Hirogen territorial claim extends to the Beta Quadrant, because that's how Sela made contact with them. She found a group of Hirogen living in the Beta Quadrant.
True.
And
so maybe their civilization originated there.
The relay satellite network did actually extend into the Beta Quadrant, which is why Voyager used it for communication.
This is making me wish we had that asset, that space station, because it is it is in one of the patrols in the Delta Quadrant. Maybe we can convince Taco to add it in this next round of stuff. Another thing I was thinking about looking through the list of NPCs here is the space whales.
Oh, the Gekli?
Yeah. Which, of course, in the Foundry, they're listed as Junior. Got Junior, Dreadnought, Frigate, Cruiser, and Battleship. I mean, things like that, they could be pretty old.
Maybe a race that uses organic technology.
If only we had
Tin Man.
Tin Man.
Well, that's what inspired those, isn't it?
This was, from a different episode.
No, this was a different episode. It was that one where you had this creature that latched itself onto the Enterprise and was feeding off it. Yeah.
The one with Leah Brahms.
The real one, not the hologram. Right?
It was funny seeing what you thought of the hologram.
Yeah. Let's see who else we got. The Kobali ships look like something I could use because they're not really an iconic shape, and you didn't see them a lot in the show, and you don't see them a lot in game.
Yeah. Well, it's a little
And
surprised
there's
that
really
there is.
only
but I
one
got a
that most
couple of-
players recognize.
Yeah, it's not a recognizable ship, so that's definitely one I can use, and it's got a cruiser and frigate versions, so that could work.
Ooh, Malon.
The Malon, of course.
What do the
Yeah.
Artanti ships look like? I forget.
They're kind of interesting. They're very sort of smooth with a ring shape kind of a thing in them.
It kind of reminds me of the Promelian ship from Next Generation.
Yeah, a little
They got a
bit.
very aquatic feel to them.
They do.
Of course, the Promelians were not an ancient race, though. They were actually a race that was apparently wiped out at some point relatively recently, which is peculiar, but, you know.
Yeah. There's a couple more little Talaxian ships. Talaxian fighter and Neelix's ship, of course.
Ship.
Let's see. The Teray, of course, which are recolored Both ships.
Mm-hmm.
True to the episode.
Which is what they used in the TV show. So, hey.
Exactly. Undine, I think I wouldn't use Undine because I think the idea is that they never made contact with our dimension until the Borg did in Voyager.
Hmm.
This is interesting. A Vodwar comm buoy. I wonder how big that is. I'm gonna test that while we're here.
If it's only a
Looking at this.
buoy.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it doesn't look like anything else we have, especially as an NPC. Here we go. It's not too small. See it next to my Miranda here.
Yeah, but Mirandas are about the size of hockey pucks.
It's about the size of a Miranda saucer, you might say.
Yeah, not a really tiny object.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely something people would easily notice on the screen.
But it's kind of interesting. It's got an interesting look to it.
Purple.
It's purple. So yeah, I mean there's a lot of options there, and you know, just go through each race and pick out. Okay, so I'm going to use the Kobali ships for the Icobar or something like that. And then obviously the big overarching issue to progressing with this mission is how do we get the player back 200,000 years ago again? Which we talked a little bit about last time. There's some interesting options that I can pursue, but I haven't decided on anything just yet as far as that goes. So Dragoon, if you want to fire up your version of the Foundry, we're going to do a little activity here.
Okay, you have to give me a little bit of time because
yeah, you get better frame rate than I do when I'm sharing my screen with you, which I'm going to stop sharing at the moment.
I have to switch over from Tribble.
Because, of course, Tribble is not available on the Foundry. I noticed an interesting thread that Recursion had posted with a technique that I want to try out according to his instructions.
Have to give me a sec here.
And I have to go find. I have to go find. I have to go find the thread again. One thing I did today, just for the heck of it, is I went and lurked around the forums for the Neverwinter Foundry, and they seem to be having some issues over there. They seem to be, for one thing, sort of inundated with, grinders and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, that's sort of a natural byproduct of offering rewards for the Foundry, which you always kind of want to do because you want to incentivize people to play it. The other problems they had is they just had a major downtime, which obviously we're used to, and I would think they'd be used to too. But there's lots of angry posts. Maybe we're more used to it because we've lived with it longer.
I don't know. I mean, two weeks is about it. After 2 weeks, we get restless.
It's true. We usually do get a number of threads starting after 2 weeks. Theirs seem to go about 6 weeks, which is quite significant. I think the longest downtime we've ever had in the Foundry was 5 in Stowe.
Is that the season 4 or the?
That was season 4.
Where,
and I know because I was counting. Because I was a bit more of your angry poster back then. I changed. I've mellowed in my old age. And I don't do that sort of thing anymore. But, they had some problems, some bugs that I saw people reporting that sound quite familiar. One is the team play bug, where it's sending team members to different instances on a map change. So that seems to be a universal problem, rather than just a Stowe Foundry problem.
I think that's actually a glitch related to spawning the instance, because when it has to spawn a new instance, I think it's mistakenly spawning more than one sometimes.
Yeah, seems to be.
My current running theory is that it's either like a bug in the instance or the instance manager itself, so it's not behaving properly, and that's why it's affecting both games, or it's something that's kind of creeped in and through the core engine code. The way it definitely seems to be not a Stowe limited problem.
Yes. And the other one I noticed is that they have teleporters, objects that you can place that are sort of two ends of a teleporting thing. Gives you an interact. You click it, you teleport to the other one, and they don't work properly right now until you publish the mission, which sounds rather familiar. We have a number of things that have that same issue, like space mobs, particularly. Because they want to teleport. They want to teleport to 000 until you publish the mission.
That's it. Our enemy mob stole their teleportation function.
That's exactly it. That's what's going on.
Well, we know that the Stowe devs have the ability to use a triggered teleportation function on the player, anyways. It's just that we can't do that.
Yeah. All right, Dragoon, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. So what we're going to do is, this is kind of a lengthy workaround to make an NPC actually beam out with a beam out animation.
Okay, this should be interesting.
Yeah. So if you've got a... why don't you share your screen with me so I can see what you're doing without the lag? That is quite helpful when we're doing stuff like this. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to need is a Targ NPC group.
Okay.
And what you're going to want to do is rename that group into Trigger End Beam Out.
Okay, so I'm going to assume it's the Targ neutral Captain 01.
Yeah, that one that gives you a single Targ.
Oh, single Targ. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I think, right? Or no, this is different. This is a Targ enemy NPC group, not that neutral one. So we need we need an enemy squad.
You want the one that's missing its B-men.
No, I think this is different, slightly.
Okay, which one am I putting in?
you need an enemy NPC group of Targs.
Okay, which one?
It probably doesn't matter. We'll find out later.
Okay.
Okay. We need 2 neutral Mastiff NPC groups. Of the same kind, I imagine.
Okay.
And you're going to name them Civilian 1 and Civilian 2.
Okay. What about the first group?
You want to name them Trigger and Beam Out.
Wait a minute. Do I have 2?
Just one
Okay. And okay.
of the targs. Okay, so
Trigger
we
and
need,
beam out.
yeah, we need an invisible object.
Okay. No idea where you're going with this.
I'm not entirely sure I do either. I'm just following his instructions here.
Or the 20 ought to do.
Yeah. And name that Trigger Beam Out. For the moment, we'll just place these anywhere.
Okay.
All right, you're going to need an invisible floor. Actually, he says we have a slight problem here. We'll have to start over because we need an outdoor map.
It matters.
Apparently.
Well, I don't know exactly what we're doing, so I wouldn't be able to guess what.
It involves using a space volume, so I think we need a little room to work with because those are quite large.
Wait, is this the thing he was talking about with killing an enemy mob with a space volume and using that as a timer?
Yes, possibly.
Oh, I think I know where he's going now.
What? See, can you copy and paste those objects between maps?
Be able to.
Hey, perfect. Okay, so we got to the invisible object. Now we need an invisible floor.
Okay.
Yep. And we need 3 space volumes of the 1000 size.
Okay.
You got 3 of them?
He's doing what I think he's doing. This is going to be tricky.
Make sure you duplicate that. There we go. Okay, so in the storyboard, what we need is a. Stick that upward in your outdoor map there. Okay, so we need an interact with object. And call it trigger, or let's see, call it rescue civilians. And then you're going to set the object to your trigger beam out, which was the invisible object.
Okay.
Okay, and the interact text can say energize. And set the animation to Tapcom badge.
Okay.
Okay, now you're going to need a kill enemy objective. And let's see, the mission text will say beam out civilians. And we only put down one enemy mob, so you just point it to that. Which was our targs.
Okay.
Okay, so go back to the map. And we're going to move our components around here.
Okay, I'm going to assume we're going to need to reskin a couple things.
Well, yeah, we don't have to worry about that just now. So what you want to do on the outdoor map here is somewhere behind your spawn point, place the invisible floor with a Y value of 10.
Behind my spawn point.
Yeah, back there somewhere.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you want to place the targs, our trigger and beam out mob, on the invisible floor, so you want to raise them up a bit. And you want to change the hidden to visible to be, let's see, that should be immediate already. Okay, they're fine. You don't have to worry about their states.
Okay.
And let's see. Now what you want to do is place the Civilian 1 and Civilian 2 mobs in exactly the same spot. In front of the player, I think, not on the floor.
Oh, you went in spot of each other. I thought you meant in the same spot as the targs.
No, in front of the player.
Okay.
Yeah, the same spot as each other. Okay, so for Civilian 1, you want to change the visible to hidden in their states. The other one, visible to hidden. There you go. You want to change that to objective in process, or objective in progress. And let's see, the second one, beam out civilians.
Okay.
Okay. And then for Civilian 2, we want to change their advanced behavior.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, over there. To animate, so probably legacy combat, right?
Animate is
and
the
that,
behavior.
Yeah. And we want the beam out Federation.
Starfleet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see where he's going with it. He's going to use the targs as a timer to hide the new NPCs
okay,
before
so
they're...
For hidden to visible on this particular state for Civilian 2,
Okay.
go to your states. 2. Yeah. Okay, so for that one you want component complete, or not component complete, objective complete, sorry. Up at the top, rescue civilians, the first objective. And then for visible to hidden, you want the other objective, beam out civilians. Okay. Now, we want the space volumes.
They're going to have to be well far away.
Yeah, you may have to... Let's see here. Place the 3 space volumes anywhere in close proximity to the invisible floor with Y equals 160.
Y equals 160?
Yeah.
Not negative?
Nope. We're going to trust his instructions for the moment and see if it all works.
Okay. It's way up in
And
the sky.
and you want to place it in proximity to your invisible floor. So kind
Okay.
of
Yes, my visible
around,
floor and
around
my
it or
targs
above.
are within range, but they are well below where the.
Mm-hmm. But you're going to want to put them near to the spawn point
What?
because you got to make sure those targs appear, and they're not going to appear if they're way far away.
Good point, but this is going to be really tricky because got to figure out the exact distance of. Hang on.
Well, I think what he's done is he's figured out how tall those space volumes are, and so it's gonna hit the targs, but it's not gonna hit the player.
Yeah, that's right. Because those volumes are a giant cube.
Yeah,
they
they're
don't
not
cover the entire
infinitely
map.
tall.
Okay.
So I think he's figured out where the bottom of those is going to be, and it's going to be about 10.
Okay.
Okay, so for these 3 space volumes, we're going to need some triggers on them. The same ones for each one, so it looks like you will not need, get rid of 2 of them. We'll just do the triggers on 1 and duplicate it. Okay, so
he wants
hidden divisible on objective in progress, beam out civilians.
Okay.
Okay, and visible to hidden never.
Well, you can get rid of them once they die.
Yeah.
So they can objective complete on beam out civilians.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, place the we got all of the NPC guys in there in one place, right?
Yeah, let me just put my.
They're all on top of you. They're all exactly on top of each other. And there's your interact object. And I believe we are ready to test.
Okay.
And in 5 seconds, it explodes.
Hey, this is not a Michael Bay movie. This is
Next week when we recreate a Michael Bay movie in the Foundry.
well, I always joke
that's actually one of the things I learned from playing Evil 70th missions is that if you do triggers right, you can actually do the whole scattered explosion thing.
Oh yeah. You can make things explode in sequence too if you do it right. It's pretty cool.
Okay. I am not dying. This is good.
Calica.
Oh. My targs didn't die.
Your targs didn't die.
Got inside the environmental.
Okay. So we need to tweak some here. Set everything to 0 altitude. Maybe that would help.
Okay.
And get rid of snap to grid as well, so that you can put things at precise heights.
$160 was the height it was supposed to be at.
160. Oh, and you know what we forgot to do? We forgot to do 3 of them.
That's still they weren't losing any hills, so.
I bet you I know why. I bet you that if you put 3 of them down, it'll kill them faster.
That's the theory.
Yeah. I think we only had 1 at that point. We forgot to duplicate it again.
All right, I'm going to put them at the same height so they're not above a hill or something. Try this again.
Try it again. I've frame rate on your sharing screen to me has dropped significantly, so you're going to have to tell me if it works.
Well, it's loading map, so there's nothing to update.
No, I mean, I couldn't. The last test, I couldn't see anything.
Okay. Figure out where my targs went. Oh, because I gotta.
Yeah, he says what makes the trick possible is the damage from the space volumes stack. So more space volumes will kill them quicker. Because each space volume causes 48 hit point damage per tick.
Not quite fast enough.
So we can add more.
Our boy is watching us. I'm sure he's thinking of gross misuse of the powers.
Yeah, I could see them. They did the beam out animation, but it wasn't quite quick enough to prevent them from drawing back in on that second attempt.
Almost.
Getting close. So I guess
One more ought to do it.
the space volume, the 1,000 foot space volume, is, I guess, 160, or no, it must be about 150 meters tall.
It should work for indoor maps too.
Probably 300 all told. 300 above and 300 below, it's 0 point. Or 150 above and 150 below, it's 0 point. That's useful info. Yeah, that works. Close.
Sorry, you're watching the
very close. I'm watching the lagged one because your screen share has kind of stopped working, turned into a slideshow.
Sorry, I'm sure live stream
but yeah,
is eating up most of.
Probably. But yeah, I mean that essentially seems to work. What targ mob did you use?
Just one of the, I think the targ captain one.
Change them to ensigns.
Good point.
That they'll die quicker.
Really well, nice. I mean, it's a function of the number of HP of the mob you put down. So if you put down a mob where the leader of the mob only has 800 HP, then you know that's however many seconds versus a mob where the leader has like 4,000.
It is worth noting that the Mastiff mobs the neutral Mastiff mobs don't seem to have a beam in animation. That's just native to them.
Yeah, it gets a little weird with a couple of those. I know I use the neutral targ captain 01 mob specifically for the fact that it doesn't have a beam in. animation, so I'll use it for NPC swapping. Wish we could get a basic neutral single mob that has no beam animation. That would be the number one on my Foundry request list. All right, this should be it. Hey,
So we wait bated breath.
it worked perfectly.
It worked. Fantastic. Now the question would be: is if you publish this and got on somebody who's like a level 50, does the what does that do to the hit points for the mobs?
Good question.
Something for to test and report back on, because we are about at our time limit. So, but
right.
the technique does work. It's quite interesting. You know, you basically, yeah, I mean, and it could work for other timers as well, if you wanted to use it for that, because you know, that's a good way to be able to kill NPCs is to know exactly where the limits of those boxes are of the space volume.
It may be what happens is that the space volume takes a set percentage of your HP.
Could be.
Because it seems like it would be problematic to have it taking a static amount.
A set amount. Yeah. No, I think you're probably right about that. But anyway, why don't you throw up our contact info?
Okay. Email us at foundryroundtable@live.com, where you can send us requests for reviews, suggestions for the show, general comments. Tell us how great and awesome we're doing, or how absolutely horrible and we should never podcast again.
Mm-hmm.
We are also on Twitter at Foundry Roundtab, and try and push news announcements about when the show is up on YouTube and when we're going to live stream, or if there are any like changes and dates and stuff like that. You can find out by following us there. You can also contact us individually. Drogan can be reached at Drogan1701. Mark can be reached at Markhawkman, although it's pretty rare that he checks it. And I can be reached at Greendragoon.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and we will say goodnight.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.